Welcome to the Podcast Superfriends. 5 podcast producers from across North America get together to discuss podcasting.
Here we are in August, and some podcasters are taking the summer off, but not the Podcast Super Friends. We're looking at closing out the year strong, and we're starting here on the Show and Tell episode of the Podcast Super Friends. My name is Catherine O'Brien. I'm checking in from the very warm, the very humid Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and we're just going to go right around the circle and introduce the other podcast Super Friends, starting as my neighbor in Texas, Johnny Podcasts.
Hi, I am Johnny Podcasts, like Catherine said, from Texas.
Matt Kundle, the Sound Off Media Company, Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, for now.
David Yaz, the Boston Podcast Network, pod617.com, in Pod We Trust.
John Gay, for the moment, Jag in Detroit Podcast, soon to be rebranded as Jag Podcast Productions in the coming weeks.
And I want to give you a gold star right off the bat. Thank you for the applause there, David. Yes, I want to give Jag a gold star right off the bat because I have noticed you are diligently, every time I see you online, you're just dropping that you are rebranding soon.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Keeping it going there.
Is killing us.
Yeah. The funny thing is, I wrote it on a notepad that has Jag Podcast Production as the new name at the top, and everybody said, I can't wait to see the new rebrand, except for one marketing person in my network who realized the rebrand is literally right at the top of this notepad.
They were keenly they were like looking for spoilers, and they were satisfied. They found the Easter egg that you had been planning for them.
So Tiffany from Twiz Creative, if you are watching or listening, props to you for getting the gold star and being the only one who noticed that I had the new logo in the post.
Good job, Tiffany. Well, the spirit behind today's episode of the Podcast Super Friends is that we are here in the halfway mark of the year. We're starting to close in on second new year, which we all know as is September, right on through the end of the year. This is a great time for podcasters to be looking at what is going well, what is working, what have they tried in the new year, and we're going to do a little quick assessment here. I know just in our fabulous Podcast Super Friends vein, there's a lot to be reporting on with using AI tools. Some of our favorites are going to be coming off. 2 of our Podcast Super Friends have rekindled some outreach in the podcast sphere that I love to hear a little bit more about. So we're going to do a little bit of a potpourri of all the things that are going so well. And in that spirit, since Jag, we were talking about your rebrand and things that you're doing. You're using your summer very well. We got to see a video from you, Jag. Can you tell us what you've been dropping out there for everybody to look at?
I put this out yesterday afternoon, about 24 hours ago, of the best mics to use for a podcast. And I broke down 5 microphones, our group favorite, the Blue Yeti, and I threw that behind me in the video with a little yeet sound effect. And then we looked at the Samsung Q2U and Audio-Technica 2100X. By the way, if you haven't seen the video, it's on my socials at Jag in Detroit. But the crux of it is the problem with the ATR 2100X, it's in short supply. Problem with the Samsung Q2U, it's only USB-A, but if you have a USB-C connection to your computer, just simply get an adapter for it, or a dongle, as they say. And then we looked at the Shure SM7B and the Shure MV7, which I believe Johnny is on as we speak right now.
Yes, but it's the XLR only model. I don't know how I ended up with that one versus most of them come with the USB-C and XLR.
Yeah, the MV7 Plus is the newfangled one where they put a little bit more guts and
they put some preamps into it, right?
Some preamps, and they got rid of I think they had improved their deplosive in it as well.
Is that worth making a video on, Jag?
No, because I don't want to drop $300 on the new microphone
For a YouTube video, fair. We'll leave that for podcast.
If I was starting out, I maybe I would.
Well, and who knows? Maybe you could land them as a sponsor there. That would be the real.
We're still working on
thinking
Descript.
like a podcaster, Catherine.
We're still working on Descript for this show, Matt.
Yeah.
That's true.
I'm Jag. I wanted to point out that the ATR 2100X I think has been discontinued. I saw a post from Elsie Escobar, who was, I think, the only one to attend its funeral.
Oh, well, thank you for mentioning that. ChatGPT did not know that, which we'll come back to in a moment. But thank you, Elsie.
Yeah, I would probably just, in your show notes, just mention that you can get them secondhand, eBay, right?
Mm-hmm. Or I'll
Because
sell
there's
you
a
mine.
lot of podcasters that have quit that probably have that mic that's sitting in a box somewhere.
Reliable, totally reliable. Yeah, secondhand market is rich. Matt, I know you had some new mic things that you were excited about.
Yeah, so the last couple of times we've done this show, I've noticed that this new space that I'm in has got a lot of echo, and I was using, a condenser mic, which is what Jag says not to do if you're in a not a very well treated space, and I learned that, and I swapped it out for an SMB7DB.
That's the new one.
Yeah, which is it's same as the SMB7, only it's I don't need to get a cloud lifter for it. So it's a little more expensive. But again, I'm saving the cost of a cloud lifter. And I found most of the times I put in just a regular SMB7, I found I just didn't get the horsepower I needed out of it. I would have had to crank the gain. It got a little bit noisy. Put a cloud lifter on, it would get better. But I figured, like, why have two parts when I can just do one? So I'm very happy with this microphone so far.
There you go. The SM7B runs about 400. The SM7B DB, the new bell and whistle edition, about 500 US.
Wow. But then no cloud lifter either. That's nice.
Yeah, you get a cloud lifter for like 100, so you're kind of evening it out.
It's a push there.
And the extra XLR cable. It's a lot more boxes and wires, folks.
And things to go wrong, things to wear out and die.
I can
That's a
actually,
good-
if I could dovetail off of that, I'll jump into one of mine. So one of
Yes,
my show
please.
and tell items is the Rodecaster 2 Duo, which forgive me for moving my webcam around, but it is right here next to me on my desk. One of the bells and whistles over this is over the original Rodecaster is there are more mic presets, including it's really hard to see unless you're full screen here, but the Rodecaster Duo and Rodecaster 2 have a preset for the SM7B. So I didn't have to worry about dialing in any settings or processing. I just picked that, plugged in my SM7B. Does not need a boost or a cloud lifter because the Rodecaster has that gain built into it. And that was there for that. It has only 4 pots as opposed to the 6 on the fuller size version. And you can actually program these to whatever you want. So for me, I've got my microphone on the first pot. I've got USB, which is going to be where I'm hearing you guys on the second pot. Bluetooth for the third. The Bluetooth connectivity is improved over the original Rodecaster. And then my sound effects bar on the last one.
Nice record scratch.
And
Does that come with it?
Occasionally, yeah. And I have that because I oppose the full Rodecaster 2 because most of my clients, or all my clients, are virtual at this point. And so I only really need myself and the client. And then I can have the sound effects and I can have a third Bluetooth if I need to connect. I don't need 6 across the board. If I had 4 or 5 people in a room, I would have got the full Rodecaster 2. But the Rodecaster Duo for myself, and I think for most podcasters that only have 1 or 2 people in a room, should be just fine.
Are these settings the same, like the mix minus, all that kind of business that in the original Rodecaster?
Yeah, same thing, Dave. As far as it is, I have the mix minus turned on for my USBs that I'm not feeding the USB, and you're not hearing yourselves on an echo coming out of my side. It's got a little bit more fine tuning as far as processing, a couple more bells and whistles. Nothing that I think you really need to dial in too much. And also
internal SID card. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, a SD card. Yes, it's records to a micro SD card in the back. I will say I had an issue where I had a micro SD card that got corrupted and it wasn't getting all my files to transfer, so I had to buy a new micro SD card. That said, I always have a backup recording. I record on the Rodecaster, but I'm also recording in Squadcaster, Riverside, or Adobe, or whatever platform I'm using. And then the final item on the Rodecaster Duo, I forget, but it'll come back to me.
You don't have 24 SD cards at the bottom of a backpack like I do?
It's those micro ones. They get lost so easily. They're
So
tiny.
easily.
You got to get these little plastic cases to
Yep,
hold
got
them
a
in.
couple of those for sure.
Jag, I have a question.
Yes, Matt.
Because so often, I remember a few years back, you were talking about the Rodecaster being something that you could take into a client's office and start doing some recording, and then people would say, "Oh, wow, and isn't this impressive?" How does this one do for travel?
I actually, to be honest, Matt, have not traveled with it because in COVID, I pivoted to a completely remote business model. But this is going to be a lot smaller. In fact, a visual aid here. I can blow the dust off my original Rodecaster just for an A/B comparison.
Wow.
There's
Wow. Way
that's-
smaller.
that is how much smaller the Rodecaster is versus, it's maybe 2/3 the size of the original. This is the original God Rodecaster box with everything on it, and then this one here. And the final point I'll make is Rodecaster Rode now has its own Rodecaster app to update the firmware on your Rodecasters. So if you are using a Rodecaster Duo, any of these Rodecaster products, it's a little bit more user friendly. The Rodecaster standalone app to update firmware and check for firmware updates. Grab that from the Rode website.
I'll take that old Rodecaster Pro off your hands if you're gonna move
Oh
it.
no, it's here in case the Rodecaster Duo messes up. I've actually
Conks
the
out.
Rodecaster Duo connects by USB-C, and I have had once in a while where it's cut out completely. It's not as bulletproof as the original. It's a little bit nicer and easier to use, but I have had a couple moments where I've had to restart because something wonky in the USB-C connection. In full disclosure.
Always have a backup.
Or the backup to the backup. Yeah, I was thinking, David, along those same lines. I was like, by the end of this episode, we might have a full eBay storefront of Audio-Technica 2100s.
Forget the sponsor, let's just sell our old crap.
Yeah, sell our old loot. That would be a great thing. Any more equipment that people have to share for this first part of the hardware situation?
I have
Anything you
another
wanna talk
question
about?
for Jag.
Oh, please.
Go, Matt.
This one is about Rode releasing Call Me, which integrates into, I believe, your
Yes,
your
I'm
Rodecaster.
glad you brought that up because I forgot that point. I have not used the feature yet. I just downloaded the latest firmware update, so I do have that capability. But if you and another person on your podcast, your guest, your co-host, are both using Rodecasters, there is a feature called Call Me where they can, and because the new Rodecasters connect to the internet, I recommend wired, not Wi-Fi, just for stability. You can call each other, and their Rodecaster will come up on a slot on your board that you can program.
Wow.
It's Rodecaster to Rodecaster. I believe they're using VoIP technology for it.
I think I was given, I'm trying to recall at the London podcast show, I had a demo of it in advance where with my phone, I could just dial right into the Rodecaster.
Yes, you can. You can from a phone number. You can get a number to call in, or pull it up on your browser in Chrome, I believe, as well, to call into a Rodecaster.
Needless to say, I said, "Wow."
Other equipment would be, if you wanted, from Jack's viewpoint for those listeners, in what scenario would you want a Rodecaster Duo? Why would I need one? Seems like a big box if I'm just recording on my podcast remotely. It's a really good piece of hardware to have if you're going to be doing hybrid recording. So sometimes we're going to do remote recording. Sometimes we're going to go on site. And just in that same vein, if you wanted something that's even smaller, it doesn't have all the same bells and whistles that the Rodecaster Duo has. There's a reason why it's so popular, because it's really powerful. But if you just want something that will literally fit in your pocket and can record remotely into your computer, or act as
Locally,
an
yeah.
USB audio interface to get your mic into your computer, or if you wanted to take it on the road, this is the PodTrack P4. This is what I use occasionally if I have to do a travel podcast. I was using it as just testing it out for a few months as a USB audio interface. Worked great. You can fit 4 microphones in there. You can plug kind of an aux cable, a 3.5 millimeter in there. You can plug it into your computer. It has a wall charging option, 4 separate headphone outputs. And this is obviously for the people watching on video. Go watch on YouTube. And it is a really, really powerful and probably like $150. So, not breaking the bank if this is something you're going
About
to
a
be
quarter
using
of
for
the
a long
price
time.
as one of these Rodecaster. Yeah.
And always reliable. That's always a good one to have.
Yes.
And it records onto SD or micro SD, Johnny.
It records onto an SD card.
Thank
So just your standard normal one, lot harder to lose than the micro SD cards.
Mhm.
Even with the small little case that you come with. There you go.
Exactly.
I think that concludes our equipment portion of our halfway through the year show and tell portion. We're going to go to David next, because when David came onto this call right here today, we all went, well, Mr. Yaz, look at what's behind you. I want you to just, first of all, just tell us, what are you doing with your ChatGPT Plus account and this magnificent background that you've brought up for us?
Well, that's one thing. The first thing I'll mention, that ChatGPT can be a boost for your podcast. I'm using it more and more. The robots are here to stay, people. Let's make friends with them, okay? They're going to be in charge before you know it. But so a simple prompt to, if you have ChatGPT Plus, I don't know what the fee is, but it's nothing exorbitant. Monthly fee, you pay for that, and you get some extra stuff, including the ability to make images. And so the background you see here is just, it maybe took 2 prompts with ChatGPT, say make a background for, hold on, Adrian, can you be quiet, please? My son's making some noise. Sorry about that. So just a prompt saying you make a background for the Boston Podcast Network, and then it'll take some liberties. I didn't say put brick behind me, but it looks nice. It'll give you a couple different options. It'll do it the correct shape. I use ChatGPT for images all the time, particularly for episode-specific podcast images. I have a podcast I produce, which has 3 women who are all fashion designers, and I always take a photo of them. Then I upload the photo to ChatGPT, and I say, make a fun cartoon about the fashion choices people made at Wimbledon. And, it'll make one that is a lot spiffier than anything you could have done by hand or whatever. So use it you can upload photos of who's ever on the podcast. Sometimes you got to avoid copyright protected stuff. Like you can't say, make one where I'm on Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run album instead of Bruce. It might kick that one back to you because, but so many ways to use that. I have a couple other. Catherine, you want me to go into the other ChatGPT stuff?
Yeah, sure do. But actually, before you do that, you just mentioned Bruce Springsteen. Did he have any #1 hits ever?
He never did, but Dexy's Midnight Runner did.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is there a podcast we can learn more about this, Dave?
There is. I'll get to that in a moment, Jack, actually. But so ChatGPT can help your podcast in ways that I won't even be able to list all of them right now. But the first, let's start with like the simple. And so this is just a real simple prompt. You can play that video, Matt. Thanks. It's just a real simple video. Is I typed in here it is. Create a table for this podcast. Provide the RSS feed and just give me a table, ChatGPT, with the episode, the release date, the episode title. So this is real simple. And you might say, well, why do I need to do that? Well, cutting and pasting from Apple Podcasts isn't exactly easy, and this will do it in a heartbeat. You could also have it put the episode descriptions, names of guests, or you can see at the end, ChatGPT always provides a little, what else can I do for you? Durations, descriptions, guest names, et cetera, et cetera. One word of warning, when you type in the RSS feed, it doesn't always work, and sometimes it asks for a little extra information, but that's just one way. So, and one of the themes you'll see developing here is that ChatGPT can give you actual feedback on your podcast, which you wouldn't necessarily think was possible. So, Matt, if we could go to the second video, I took a podcast, and it's called Shorts Beyond Measure for whatever reason. And if you play that video from the beginning, Matt, is that? Or it seems like we're kind of in the middle of the video there. Yeah. No, here it is. Okay. Okay. So I say, analyze the transcript of this podcast and give me the feedback on the quality. So wow. whatever. Right. And so the entire episode transcript, just tell me what you think, ChatGPT. You'd be amazed at how much detail it'll give you. It'll give you here are the strengths. The hosts are charming. They have natural chemistry. It's cultural relevance. There's authenticity in what they speak about. Now, what could they do better? They don't really have too much structure in the show. Too much banter up front. We're all guilty of that from time to time, I think. somehow it noticed the energy drop towards the end. I think that was because one of the hosts said, "Let's finish this up. I'm hungry." I mean, that was a joke. Some overlapping dialogue it noticed, and some other sort of missed opportunities there. So these are for the producers, this podcast Super Friends, this is great feedback to give to the people you're working with. Now, of course, you want to read it over and make sure that ChatGPT is on point, or simply tell the person you're working with, this is what ChatGPT said, take it with a grain of salt. But it's even got bonus ideas for boosting quality. What can you add to the show? Add a visual companion, this says, have a guest expert on this and that. And then it comes with a final verdict here of 3.5 stars out of 5. So, which is kind of nice. But really, you want to hear the criticism, right? I mean, we're not doing our jobs if we're not looking at our podcast critically and deciding how we can improve. So, at the very least, it'll get you thinking about a lot of these things. You know, if the ChatGPT says maybe you should do a segment on, you know, the book of the week or the tip of the week or something like we do like that, ChatGPT can help you develop that. It can help write a script for the opening of that, you know, all kinds of things. The third way I just wanted to show you with my third little mini video here is how to analyze download numbers. So I took, and Jag and Catherine, wait no longer. Here I am taking a screenshot of download numbers for Past Tense, a top 10 time machine. What
shows that?
Past Tense, a top 10 time machine. You can go to timemachinepod.com.
Play the jingle.
I don't have the jingle hooked up today, so sorry to disappoint. But so take a screenshot of, you know, whatever podcast app, host. And here I am. I'm just going to attach that screenshot. Don't worry, ChatGPT can read your screenshot. And I'm going to say, analyze the download numbers and see what you can tell me about my audience, the growth of my audience, etc. So you'd think, well, it's only got, you know, a couple dozen episodes there with download numbers, but you'll see it'll tell me what my growth is like, strong overall growth. It'll, of course, tell you what the top performing episodes are, and then it'll look at some of the episode titles and tell you which one seems to be doing better. Now, mind you can feed ChatGPT with as much information as you want. I just did one screenshot of the list of like the last, you know, maybe 20 episodes and what kind of downloads they got. You know, here it is telling us which of the episodes are above average, and which kind of organizing the information for you and trying to draw some conclusions and some takeaways. You know, it's telling me we're on a strong upward trajectory. The content is resonating. Even the worst episodes still beats your overall average. Some of those are just intuitive, but if you feed it with even more information, it can keep giving you updates and analyze things for you. And don't forget that ChatGPT never forgets anything. So if like 3 days from now I give it another screenshot, I can literally say to it, hey, do you remember when I gave you that screenshot of those download numbers? Well, now I'm going to give you another screenshot which shows episodes, you know, over the course of an entire year or something. So we all, and sometimes this helps because a lot of the podcasts we work on, especially in the early going, don't really have strong download numbers at all, and you're wondering, are there any bright spots? You'd kind of like to at least have a bright spot, and ChatGPT can break some of that down for you. So, Super Friends, please weigh in.
Can I make a clarification on something David said at the end? Yes, ChatGPT will remember what you said, but only within that same chat. So if David said if David started a chat like he just did in the beginning of the screenshot, and then started a new chat a week later and said, hey, remember when we talked about this? It will not remember that. The AI LLMs are not allowed to look at between chats. You would have to open up a project within.
I want to push back on that, Johnny.
Yeah, I would too.
Because that may be true in the free version. On the paid $20 a month version, at one point I asked ChatGPT, what do you know about me? And a little scary, but it told me a bunch of stuff based on a couple dozen different chats that I've given it. So
yeah, I would.
The paid version will remember stuff in between, I believe.
Okay. I think that's probably just on a case by case scenario. So for whoever's watching and ends up trying it, try it and see for yourself. That's just the experience that I ran into. Where I would take the next step beyond the free version is you can create projects in ChatGPT and then give project instructions that it will remember across all chats. So I do that for a lot of workflow stuff, but just something to be cautious about, because in case you run into like, I don't know what it says, I don't know what you're talking about. You go, but I told you a week ago.
Yeah. I think Jag is right. I think with the paid version, it does have I know it has the ability to remember some things. Maybe it just requires a certain prompt that's saying, remember this or whatever. We all, we've talked about this on the show before, the ChatGPT is, and Descript is as well with their AI tools. Very useful in looking at the transcript of a podcast and writing show notes for you, including those time-stamped list of topics if you do those. So I've been using Descript for that, but something like a fun podcast that's a little bit irreverent, I don't want just the sort of static antiseptic way it's described. So what I do is I'll cut and paste the show notes that Descript gave me. I'll put it into ChatGPT and I'll say, write this like I would write it in my voice. I've written enough and I've uploaded a couple of things that I've written to ChatGPT. And at one point, ChatGPT said to me, oh, you mean Dave speak? Yeah, sure. I'll rewrite this in Dave speak. Your, off the cuff, conversational, sometimes sarcastic, always kind of funny tone. And it writes it pretty good. I might want to make a couple changes to it, but it saves me a lot of time when I don't have the energy to be funny and witty. It'll be funny and witty for me, which sounds insane. But
and it pumps your tires for you and tells you how funny you are too, Dave.
It'll tell you. He'll tell you all that.
Whatever you want it to tell you.
Sure. He'll be your best friend if you want to.
Just to close the door on what I brought up a second ago, I have ChatGPT Plus, and I asked them, "Are you able to see things I've sent you within other chats?" And they said, "No, I can't see messages or files you've sent in other chats. Each conversation is private and separate unless you bring up something again or ask me to remember certain info using the memory feature, which I can see across chats if it's turned on." So go find the memory feature and turn that on if you haven't.
And I'll say, I know for Grok, which I know for Matt's benefit, I am going to be representing what I've been doing on Grok, which is Twitter's AI. A similar thing that Johnny, I think that if let's say I'm doing something using Descript and I'm using Grok to shortcut me to how to do things on Grok, how to do things on Descript, I go back to the same project and I'm just recycling that same project to have it continually help me so I don't have to start from ground zero for whatever we were working on in Descript. Speaking of Descript, Descript has been coming out with all their new AI tools, and I know Jag and I have a couple of comments to make there. Maybe just to kick it off, I will say that first of all, we noticed that Underlord has been taken off the main toolbar there. It just is now sparkly AI tools. We'll see how that shakes out eventually. But I've been using the Descript's AI tool of cutting out retakes, and I have been loving it. Now, one technique I will say is if you use this, the AI tool is going to come up with hundreds potentially of these suggestions of maybe a word that is repeated or when a speaker has started over. And my suggestion, what I've been doing just in the editing phase of using this AI tool, is to accept all the edits that they are suggesting, and then in the actual listening, undoing the edit if it doesn't fit. Because a majority of the edits I will take, they are good. It has made a good suggestion. And for the ones that's not, I don't have to go through them one by one. It's just in the listening. If they've made an edit that I wouldn't have agreed with, it's just a one click to undo it. Jag, what are you doing these days?
You had told me that strategy in our offline call, Catherine,
yes,
and blew my mind, because I'm going to show you the longer way to do that, which is probably not as efficient, but it's good if you want control. And this is also a good feature for novice editors if you may not have the audio editing chops. So I'm going to share. Oops. Can I share? Sorry. Your screen.
This is one of those redos Descript would just cut out. And
yes, exactly.
And I'd accept it and then would just go sailing on.
I might just do it manually.
All right, so I'm going to open. This is a podcast that was just sent to me.
Johnny, we are picking up some fun infant stuff, I think, from your mic.
Oh, sorry, I'll mute myself.
No, It's fun.
No,
but I'm
no,
glad-
I'll be quiet. I'm kidding.
Are y'all able to see my Descript screen?
Give me a sec here.
I didn't know
There it is.
where that was coming from.
All right. So this is a 48-minute podcast that was imported directly from a client recording in Squadcast. If I open up to Catherine's Point AI tools, the retakes one is very good. What I will go is edit for clarity, and I'm going to do low intensity, not medium, and I'm going to hit submit. And while this may take a moment or two, well, that didn't work. Let's try it this way. Here we go. In a 39-minute a podcast that was 40-something minutes, it cut it down under 40, as you can see down here, and it gave me 422 possible edits. And you can see a lot of that is repeated words, a lot of that is and if you are not good with the physical piece of audio editing, one thing you can do, to Catherine's point, you can accept all of them. You could hit done and accept all of them and then go back and undo ones you don't like, or you can go through. And that one sounded fine, so you can check or discard each single one as you go through. It takes a little bit of time, but it can be a faster way than hand editing things as you go back in. So I will approve or deny them one by one if I'm using this feature.
Wowzers.
Jack, can we take a step deeper into that? So let's say that the word "she's" is that right there, president of the American Waterworks Association. Let's just say you make that edit. How good is Descript at actually hiding that edit to where the end of the word Collins is faded out correctly, and then right before president is
Are you able to
correctly?
hear my audio if I hit
We
play?
can't hear it, but just like, are you
I'll play
able
and
to
I'll tell you real quick.
It's usually pretty good with that stuff, Johnny. When I take out the ums and uhs,
it's not choppy.
No, almost.
No, I think it blends the edit
Not
pretty
anymore.
well.
No.
Yeah, everyone.
Johnny, I remember what you're talking about, Johnny, when that feature was first out, and it is much better. And I will also say what Descript has significantly improved is the regeneration. So that is the AI enhancement for a one word. So like if there's a glitch or something isn't said correctly, or there's a choppy, you can highlight it, regenerate it through AI, and it'll chef's kiss. Usually it makes it perfect.
Catherine, do you find that when two people speak over each other, the AI has trouble with that? I've seen that.
Well, yes, yeah, that still remains.
That's also a thing, right? It's also a thing with the studio sound. If you have like one person talking and the other laughing, occasionally, when you turn on that magical studio sound, it'll sometimes come out distorted. But Catherine, for the regeneration of the speech, will it regenerate just from the podcast, the episode that you've uploaded, or do you need to up? Okay, because I swear I tried that and I thought it said you have to like have somebody read a script so it can recreate.
You need permission. I was going to ask this.
Yeah, not one. If it's a lengthy, then it'll generate to regenerate this. You need to have this permission and this script. If it's a single word or like maybe two words, it doesn't. It'll do it automatically.
Interesting.
Riverside has a similar function to change a word. I think in Riverside's editor, I had somebody say 3 instead of 4, or vice versa, and I was able to successfully change it without having to get it re-record. So
that I don't think Descript can do that. They would need permission, because I have run into that where the text of the script was incorrect. So I'm not going to be able to. It was like a homophone where it sounded the same, but it was spelled different. The word was wrong. I changed the text corrected it, and it would not regenerate it saying it, because that was changing what they actually said. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh, English. It's so hard to teach people, never mind AI.
So like a 3 to 4, or if let's say a 4 to a 3, it wouldn't let me do something like that. But Riverside, apparently you can. What other AI fun are people having here?
I have a question, Catherine, just one more time. You would you would accept everything that Jag did and then just undo it if you didn't like it, right?
Correct. Yes, because, well, let me tell you why, is because I was doing those 400 listen to this one. What are they suggesting here? What did they suggest? And 90% of them I would take. So to me, it was a better use of my time to say, yes, I'll do it. And then when I am actually doing the listen through, which is part of my flow, editing, if now I'm discovering, okay, well, whoops, that was not a good edit, or that was something that shouldn't have been taken out. Now it doesn't make any sense. There's a easy hanging, I hover over it. There's a little, put that back into place, and it, in one click, Descript will put it back into place to the original, easy peasy. So to me, I would rather do 10 of those rather than literally 400. Yes, I'll take out that double she, the. That's, I'm going to take those. That's me.
You asked about other AI stuff, Catherine.
Yes, I sure did. David, lay it on us.
Well, I don't know if we've ever mentioned this before, but it's great for interview prep. If you're interviewing somebody on your podcast and, you want to make sure you've got 10 really good questions to hit them with, take the person's bio and upload it into ChatGPT and say, what would be some interesting questions to ask? And I always kind of over ask. In other words, I'll say, give me 30 questions. And, then you go through and maybe cherry pick 10 of them or whatever whatever your needs are. It's always, it's a time saver is really what it is. If you're talking to some guest who's an expert on, politics and turmoil in the Middle East, and you want to know what's happened in the last week, so you're up to date on it, ChatGPT, it's a great, just give me 10 bullet points about what's been going on in the Middle East. And that way you at least kind of, what you're talking about to some degree. And of course you can apply that to any topic.
This is rather generic and boring. It's not nearly as exciting as what you're all talking about, but I'm just using it for 30-second scripts. But there are so many podcasters who, for whatever reason, do not, have a show promo. And one of the hardest things they have to do is to write about themselves. And they've already got a podcast, so there's enough documented stuff out there about the show already to do it. And then you've got, the call to action, which is, listen on Apple, Spotify. In fact, ChatGPT already knows to put Apple and Spotify in there. And they say, is there anything else you'd like me to include, like a website? If you don't put in a website, it will just do what iHeart does and wherever you get your podcasts. But you shouldn't do that. You should put your website in there. But often it does promos really, really well because a lot of people have already described and there's already podcast descriptions. But for whatever reason, I would probably want to take it a step further, and I'll do what David did earlier and get the show description. I'll give it the show description. Now write me a 1 minute or a 90-second trailer about this. And Steve Goldstein said this was really the best way to promote your podcast, is to really hype people up for one big episode. So if you're looking for a starter point to write your promo, this is always a very good one. ChatGPT does a very good job of just getting you started down the writing path of, what could this sound like? I find that it saves me at least the first 1 hour and gets me to hour number 2 of writing this promo.
And it combats the blank page syndrome. At the very least, you're not just sitting there staring at a blank page going, what am I going to do here?
I love Jag's term. He calls it gives you the scaffolding.
I came up with that. Sure.
I'm officially making you the one who said that.
Let's ask ChatGPT who came up with that.
Just tell him Jag did it.
Yeah, tell him that Jag did it.
It'll remember that Jag. But I mean, it's to, the creative types worry that it's out to replace creativity. To me, it enhances creativity. If you've got, there are certain shows that will lend itself to this, but I produce a couple shows where there's a lighthearted segment at the end where the guest has to answer 10 questions rapid fire, and then they're congratulated on doing this by some sort of salute that I have to come up with as the producer. So sometimes I'll ask ChatGPT to write a poem about this guy, make it funny, and then, I won't use the exact thing ChatGPT did, but it'll get me halfway there. So, or, if I'm trying to write a fun poem for this purpose, I'll say, ChatGPT, give me, 10 words that rhyme with sliver or whatever, just So it's
Platter of liver, yes.
Quiver.
Yeah, I mean whatever. But so I like to think it can get you there, and just incredible time savers. I mean, a lot of times the guests will say, "How did you come up with that?" Like on the spot, and magician never reveals his tricks. So.
And I think we've already established the official stance of the Podcast Super Friends is yes, AI with human finishing, with a human review. That is the official standpoint of the Podcast Super Friends.
One more thing on the Descript, Jag and Catherine, is the recommendation still to use the web version of Descript and not the app?
Yeah, they're no longer supporting the standalone app or update.
Yeah, it's gone.
Okay, use the website, listeners.
Although we should get some clarification from them as opposed to whether you should record in Squadcast or Descript rooms. We've gotten conflicting information on that.
Well, once we ink that sponsorship deal, we can get a
Yeah,
rep on
then we'll
to talk
have an
about
I'll
it.
see if I can track them down at Podcast Movement in a couple of weeks and report back to the group.
And I still record in Riverside, so we'll just keep that going.
I have found Riverside
there
better
as
for
well.
recording and Descript better for editing. Would you agree with that, Catherine?
That is my that is my official stance as well.
I can't even remember like who pushed me to get the app version of Descript for my Mac. So somebody in the last few weeks just had me download it to solve a problem of some sort. So
At one point, it looked like they were going that way, but then they reversed course, and so now I never use the app.
I can't remember what I'm supposed to do this week.
Ask
Well, this is why you have
ChatGPT, they'll have the
ChatGPT or
answer.
Grok to remind you.
The
Just
hazards
to
of being
keep
in
you
a
in line.
It's funny, we were
ever-changing
talking about
industry.
AI and we talked a little bit about Studio Sound. We talked about the stuff in Descript, but Johnny put out his newsletter again. You can connect with Johnny's newsletter in the show notes of this episode, along with my newsletter and any other newsletters that we have. We'll put a hyperlink in the show notes. But Johnny, can you talk a little bit about the ease of Adobe? And the improvements it's made?
Adobe Voice or Adobe Enhance is a really, really wonderful tool. And if you want to read more about it and find the link to it, you can find my Substack. It's just called Johnny Podcasts on Substack. And like Matt said, it'll be in the link or in the show notes. But it's a really, really awesome tool because one of the major problems for remote podcasters, and we've talked about this endlessly, is that you can have the perfect setup. You can have the Rodecaster Duo, you can have the PodTrack, you can have the Scarlett, you can have the Cloud Lifter, you can have the SMC 7dB EF and G. But your guest jumps on and they're sitting at their laptop at a loud coffee shop under the L train in Chicago, and they're going, "Hey, I'm here to do the podcast." And you go, "Well, this episode is toast. We're never going to be able to fix this." Similar to the Studio Sound tool in Descript, Adobe Enhance is a standalone Adobe product that you just drop your audio right in there, and it just does an incredible job of cleaning it up. And there's more info in the Substack about it, but I highly recommend it. And I believe I have access to the premium version of it, and it's because I subscribe to some Adobe products. So I believe you have to have some sort of Adobe subscription to have access to that, which can get expensive if you're not using any of those tools. On the flip side of it, there's a plugin, a third-party plugin that I've been using for the past 6 months that is just an amazing tool. It's actually the winner of a technical Emmy.
Ooh.
So this is an Emmy award-winning plugin. It's by a company called Accentize, ACCENTIZE. They are an intelligent audio tools platform, and it is called DX Revive. And I think, Jag, you might be using this one. I don't know.
I've played with it, but not extensively. So
it is a sort of I use it as sort of a base layer if I don't want to use Adobe Enhance. So it is just a simple dial plugin. You drop it right into your DAW, onto your audio, and then you can play with the 0 to 100% strength. And it does a very similar process as the Adobe Podcast Enhance, but it's instantaneous. The Adobe Podcast Enhance takes a little bit of time to process all of your audio, but this is a really great tool as well. And since it's an offline tool, you don't run into what are called AI hallucinations, which is a big problem that you see. I am sure that you guys run into it with the Studio Sound tool, but you also run into it with the Adobe tool. I feel like this part of my spiel is going to become obsolete in the next 6 months just because it's getting so good. I'm seeing them less and less, but essentially what AI hallucinations are it's working so hard to clean up the audio that sometimes it forgets that sometimes the person isn't talking. So when there's silence, they go, "Where's the audio to fix?" And it will create a hallucination where it just creates this kind of glitch in the audio where it sounds like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're using that tool, just be wary that that can happen. And I've listened to podcasts that I've been, brought in to consult on where they're like, yeah, we're using this tool. It's great. It really helps clean up the audio, but they forget about those AI hallucinations. And you'll hear one person talking, the other person's audio that has the Adobe Enhance added onto it will just have that hallucination in the background. So I'll be talking and in the background, you'll just hear that. And it's really distracting. So just be wary of that. And then Matt's pulled onto the screen the DX Revive Pro, which is, good God, 486 Canadian is insane. US dollars, it is $299 for D Revive Pro. I would highly recommend the Pro version over the original version. The original is only $99. D Revive Pro is $299. You pay for it once, you're good, versus an Adobe subscription, you're paying months and months and months, and you're probably going to double or triple that output if you're using it for years.
Johnny, the AI hallucination, that is the AI version of what we used to go with the Zoom warp. It's the modern version of that warping sound that we all got so good.
But those are two really wonderful tools. They're just excellent for cleaning up audio, so you can rest on your laurels, not having to worry that your guest has just horrific audio. There are ways that it can be fixed.
And quickly, Jag, you have a plugin that you were also touting.
Yeah, Johnny, I mentioned this to you offline. I'm not sure if you tried it yet. It's Waves AQ. It's an automated EQ. And I'm not real. EQ is not my strong suit. So this is if you've got somebody. Sometimes Descript or Adobe will give somebody a little bit of a boxy sound, that a little bit too much of a low end. You can run it through Waves AQ. It's an automated EQ filter. It'll give you a starting point. You can make a few tweaks throughout. So that's another one you can also use. Waves AQ. I think it was like $50.
It's Waves. Yeah, it's Waves AQ. Waves offers a subscription service to where you can pay for access to like hundreds of plugins. So I went to go buy it, Jag, and I put it in the checkout and it was like, you already have this. So I had to update everything on Waves and it put it in there. I haven't played with it extensively, so I'm not competent with it yet, but I'm going to keep stabbing at it.
And then another one is Isotope on the higher end of software has a dialogue isolate feature. If you get Isotope RX11 is what they're up to now. That's really good for somebody if they're on an okay mic but in a really echoey room. The dialogue isolate will pull that background noise, and dialogue de-reverb will unecho the voice. So that's another good one too on the higher end of the spectrum.
And we should put a disclaimer out that just because all this stuff exists and we might work with you and like you, please use a microphone.
Yes.
Yes. This is not the hall pass to just ditch your mic or not buy a microphone. This is exclusively for your guests who come on, and we need to make them sound passable.
And guess, if you're going to be on a podcast, I'm going to say 3 podcasts this year, you have to buy a mic too. Sorry.
Ooh, yeah.
Those are just the rules.
If you listen to this podcast and you are just a guest on other podcasts and you still haven't bought a microphone yet, you need to be institutionalized immediately. Because there's no way you've consumed this much content and not at least bought a microphone.
Even I wasn't going to go that far, Johnny, but
I will.
Good advice. You will. Johnny's going to go where no one else will dare. Speaking of which, Johnny has his newsletter running back up. Matt, you are also doing a newsletter, and I want to hear a little update from you on Beehive. We got to talk when we were talking last time with the area. How are you finding this service? Tell us your full report.
So yeah, Ariel's sort of given me the push to make this happen here. But so first thing, I haven't got moved into the paid area in the paid territory yet, but I will. I'm going to be forced to once I hit 2,500 subscribers. I'm nowhere near there. I'm only at 700. But it's very organized. It feels a lot like Substack, and it's neat and tidy. It shows really nicely. I can only show you on my phone here, unfortunately. I went and attached a domain to this, and it's soundingoff.news. And I just attached a domain like a day or two ago, and it hasn't quite caught up yet. So on the web browser where I could show it to you, but it rolls out at a nice newspaper format. So it's kind of like my newsletter has a home on the internet. I've got it branded as, sounding off. So the newsletter is me sounding off. Could be about anything. I'm going to try to stay consistent with it and put it out once a week. But I'm really beginning to see the value. And I think we've had this conversation many times about, you're suppressed by an algorithm, whether it's on Facebook or on YouTube or, even X to a certain extent and a bunch of other ones. You're just not going to be able to get your message out all the time. But at least I'm going to be marketing now to, 700 people who are going to get my newsletter, every week. I'll be consistent with it, and we can connect with them. Downloads, they're largely going down. If you're flat, that's kind of like the new up. The reason why downloads are going down is because people are sort of maybe picking up stuff on YouTube and spending a little bit of time with video. I don't think that's indisputable, because that is happening. But
Sure.
when this is where I sort of get the, we're going to replace the numbers in the aggregate. So we're going to at least build out a little bit on the newsletter side in order to replace any thoughts or ideas that we might be losing.
Take the Moneyball approach. We're building it out in the
Yeah.
aggregate.
Yeah, and with that said, I'm seeing some YouTube traction. So people saying, "Oh, I see the videos," and I think that's one of the things that's really good about YouTube is like people will run into it and see it. So. It used to be there was really just one or two ways to count. Now there's like 5 or 6 different ways to sort of get all your numbers together and count to really see the progress of how you're doing. Hopefully by the time we get the robots up to snuff, they'll be able to tell us a little bit more about putting all these numbers together into something. So that's Beehive, by the way, BEEHIIV.com. Enjoying it.
And Matt, I'm seeing on Twitter a lot of people who are in the Beehive universe, the extended Beehive universe. And one of the features that they talk about that I'm hoping maybe we can track, let's say, as the Podcast Super Friends, is actually gaining subscribers to your newsletter through that Beehive is good to connect you with new people. So you're not out there having to pound the pavement to get every new subscriber. Is that there are functions that Beehive has to bring in the people who are going to be interested in what you're talking about.
Yeah, and Substack does a really good job of that as well. I know I get a Substack email once or twice a week that tries to connect me with other writers.
Speaking of Substack, Johnny, relaunching this week?
Yeah, thank you, Russell. We are mic snobs.
True.
Russell is a microphone loyalist, so he is wonderful with all
and
that
he's
stuff.
correct.
Yeah. Oh, we are huge.
Yeah, no, the Substack thing was something I was doing pretty consistently for a couple years, and then, work picks up and you get busy, and it's a lot to, similar to all of us, I think Matt and David and Jag, Catherine and I don't have our own podcast, but you guys know it's a ton of work to do all of this podcast production work for other people and then carry on with your own content creation. It's a lot of work. So I'm really just dipping my toe back into it. It's going to be I don't want to commit to being like, it's going to come out every single week, because then that puts a lot of unnecessary pressure on yourself. What I'm going for is more value over, quantity over quality, which is, advice that we give all of our podcaster clients. You want to have AAA content coming out when it comes out, rather than B+, C- content coming out at a specific time every single week. And there's disputes around that methodology as well. But the goal, at least for the Substack for me going forward, is whether it's text or video, it's going to be sharing what I do and how to make your podcast be better, sound better, look better.
And you had a snazzy offer for the people who received your Substack this week, and you shared that with us on the private call with your layouts. So I'll just use that as a teaser. If you want to,
Yes.
if you want your videos to start looking amazing, go check out Johnny's Substack.
I will do something for you for free. All you have to do is go look at
Wow.
the Substack and read it.
Wow. Who doesn't like free? What a price you can't complain about. Amazing. Matt, you have been doing a little red circling. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so this has worked out really, really well, because it's, we always talk about how can we monetize without really trying too hard. And so I've always thought programmatic is a great way to do it. And so yes, there's programmatic, whether you're with Spotify and you're on Megaphone, there's ways to do that. If you're with Triton and iHeart, they've got Spreaker and they've got Omni Studio, lots of different ways to get your programmatic going. RedCircle came out with something very interesting about a year ago, and they actually, it was only about 8 months ago that they did it. And they said, we would like to use some of your leftover inventory. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Tell me how. And it's done through VAST tags. So you'll just put it into the back end of your Megaphone or, your Omni or your Art19, whatever.
What's a VAST tag for those not familiar, Matt?
I'm sorry?
A VAST tag? What's that?
Yeah, VAST tag is just a code that's just going to connect you to their system that's going to allow them to drop ads into your existing inventory. So if you put your ad markers in, if the ad marker goes unused by Amazon, if you're on Art19, if it goes unused by Spotify in Megaphone, then RedCircle will drop their ad in as well. And it was nice to wake up the other day to have 4 or 5 podcasts, get a check. And because there's a few podcasts that we have that have just a lot of inventory. And, Spotify, I think this is one of the things that people have found out is that Spotify can't fill everything. Nobody has enough of everything to do it. So I know that there's been talk about trying to get people, let's find a way to fill all this extra inventory to get the ads into the podcast. And RedCircle's done a great job. So for those who are going to Podcast Movement, go talk to Paige at RedCircle or any of the people there. And you don't have to be hosted on RedCircle to do this.
Oh.
And that's
okay.
right. And that's the thing. People think, oh, I got to move my podcast to RedCircle. No, you don't. In fact, they will also connect you with host read ads as well. So if you have over 5,000 downloads, you will qualify, I think, for some of their host read stuff. But even if you don't, they've got stuff for you.
I think I misunderstood because I heard a host read ad for RedCircle and I was like, oh, this is intriguing. And when I knew that you wanted to talk about it here with the Podcast Super Friends, I was looking forward to this. I think I misunderstood and thought you had to host with them to be a part of it. Interesting.
Not at all. I think it's great. They've actually done one of the better jobs in this. And there's, I think a lot of the podcasting hosting companies have sort of fiddled with this and figured out how do we do it? How do we do it? And they've come up with a way to do it. And I've got 4 podcasts that are just getting regular ads, and they're not being put in first, but they're being put in when available. And I think that sort of alleviates a lot of the frustration. So small pots of money, everyone, small pots of money.
Little multiple streams of income kind of thinking we're doing here. That's great.
Smart.
Good job for getting that go. Yeah, smart passive income, right? Well, great. And that is a really good list of things that we've been enjoying for this first part of the year. Before we close out, why don't we all, in our closing out, why don't we go around and say one thing that we're looking forward to for the rest of the year, podcasting wise, and then we'll give our final sign off. So Johnny, what's one thing that you're looking forward to for the rest of this podcasting year?
I'm just looking forward to AI getting better and faster just so that we can make podcasts better.
Matt?
I'm looking forward. I'm thinking about Christmas already and all the excellent microphones and camera equipment that's going to be for sale secondhand when enough people have given this up and dropped out of doing podcasting, realizing how difficult it really is.
Mm-hmm. David, yes.
Yes. Well, coming up on my music podcast.
Past tense, a top 10 time machine.
As for you, Johnny, you asked for the jingle. We will be interviewing Alan Siegel, who is author of Stupid TV, Be More Funny, a comprehensive history of the TV show The Simpsons.
Ooh. Very nice.
Interesting. Wow.
That's what I was looking forward to.
See, I'm glad for the jingle because I know that the devotees of the Podcast Super Friends who are playing the Podcast Super Friends drinking game and already took their shot because of the mention in the show, they felt a little bad because they took the shot even without hearing the jingle. So now, there you go. We have all come full circle. Jag, what are you looking forward to?
I hate to say it because I'm a little disappointed because the 5 of us met at the Podcast Movement convention, but I am the only one of the 5 of us going this year. It is in 2 weeks, week of August 18th in Dallas, Texas, Fort Worth technically. And I'm looking forward just to kind of getting a lay of the land as far as numbers and where the industry is going. The keynoters should be very good, including Jay Nacklis, former guest of the Podcast Super Friends. So, and Hal Rude, I'll also give them both shout outs. I'm looking forward to just getting kind of a 30,000-foot view of where the industry is and connecting with some folks as well. So I'm curious to see what I'm going to learn there, and I'm looking forward to reporting back to the group.
Yeah, and I know that we're all going to be on the edge of our seat hearing all the report that you have. And one of the things I'm looking forward to, I don't want to sound negative, I mean this in a positive. I am looking forward to the rest of the year, the opportunities for independent podcasters. I think we're going through yet another wave where some things that we're trying to go big with podcasting are maybe shutting down. So that's just going to create opportunity. We have to look at it as an opportunity for the independent podcasters. And I want us to really help people grab that opportunity as it presents itself from here on through the rest of the year. So that's the positive version of what I'm looking forward to. Well, this has been another great edition of the Podcast Super Friends signing off. Jag, why don't we go back to you? We'll go counterclockwise.
John Gay, Jag in Detroit Podcasts, handling co-hosting and all kinds of production. You can find me at jagindetroit.com for now, and social media, Jag in Detroit.
David
Yaz, Boston Podcast Network, pod617.com. In Pod We Trust.
Mr. Matt Kundle.
Matt Kundle, Sound Off Media Company, Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, at Matt Kundle, just about everywhere there's social media.
Oh, Johnny Podcasts.
Go read my Substack.
Done. And I'm Catherine O'Brien from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Hello, Catherine O. And thank you so much for being with us this time on the Podcast Super Friends.
Thanks for listening to the Podcast Super Friends. For a transcript of the show or to connect with the Super Friends, go to the show notes of this episode or go to soundoff.network.